God's. Who else is supposed to help you? Okay.
Testing, testing. Put them right on there. Then we'll put them up. This will be the first one. Let it down so it can sit there. Okay. We thank everyone for the opportunity to be here. If we can get you that are sitting over there to fill in over here, because I'll be blocking you once I stand over here. You won't be able to see me. We talked about curriculum last evening. We talked a lot about that we need a curriculum that needs to be developed. We're working on the curriculum, and I wanted to share some of the curriculum of what we have been able to develop and where we're going forward, so that we might be able to understand. I mean, some people look at me as people of color in the Bible expert, but Yahweh has blessed me with much more than that. That's my, as I would say, the beginners, the ABCs, before you can understand the other stuff. And the other stuff is much more, is a whole nother level. And so we have a few things that we have done. One is a study. This is called the Prophets and Kings chart. It starts with the kings of Israel, of the northern tribe and the southern tribe, Judah and Israel, the 10 tribes and the 2 tribes. And then it divides it up into each of the kings and their reign, how long they reigned, who they were, if they were righteous, if they were wicked. And then at the same time, when you're studying the Bible, when you're studying Amos, or Hosea, or Jeremiah, or Isaiah, any of the prophets, usually we need to be able to understand it in its context. So usually, some of the times when we're just reading these, we don't know who's ruling, we don't know what's going on, we don't know what other prophets are saying that's living at the same time, and how Yahweh is dealing with that. And so this chart was put together so that when you're reading about Zechariah, you know that Amos and Hosea and Isaiah is preaching at the same time. When you're reading about Malachi, you also find that Isaiah and Hosea is also prophesying, and they're in the southern kingdom. And at the same time, you can see who's preaching in the northern kingdoms, where Jonah and Hosea and Amos is, and who were the kings. And it gives you a brief summary of what's going on in the northern kingdom and what's going on in the southern kingdom, so that as you're reading the Bible, you can get more of the context of what's going on in the northern and what's going on in the southern. Because sometimes when we're reading it, if you don't have that perspective, then it's just words that might not have application if Ahab and Jezebel is reigning at that time, or if righteous Hosea is reigning, or any of the other kings. And so that's what this Prophets and Kings chart is. And our goal is, we're working also right now on Micah. It's our first book that we'll be writing on the minor prophets. We'll be doing the major and the minor prophets. And this is the outreach from that, so that as you study the history and as you looking at it, it'll make a little more sense. Then it correlates it with all the different books, where it is in Chronicles, where it is in Kings, so that when you're reading First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, you can cross-reference it over to Kings, so you can get a little more in depth of what it's saying over the same time frame. The same things with the book of Samuel. So this is one of them, which gives us a much more deeper history. And this today we're going to go over the general history from creation until the 1,000-year reign. We're just going to break it off into little pieces just so that you can see the bigger scope. Okay? Put that one back. And this chart is the only chart I brought with me that'll be available if anyone wants to pick them up. Not the beast yet. Prophets and King last day. Not that one yet. Nope. Nope. There it is. This one. Okay, in this particular chart, we tried to map in, it's called the Mount of Olivet Discourse in comparison with the book of Revelation. So in Matthew 24, in Luke 21, and in Mark 13, Yahweh gives a description. Yeshua goes over last day events. And so usually what happens when we're reading Daniel, when we're reading Revelation, we have details, but we don't have the order. And so the Mount of Olivet Discourse puts it in its order. And then what we do is we go through the Mount of Olivet Discourse and then map it into where it is with the seals, trumpets, and plagues. And some of the seals, trumpets, and plagues are out of order. Like an example, this one goes up to the 5th seal, and then the trumpets start. So it doesn't go all the way to the 7th trumpet or the 6th trumpet. Then the 6 plagues fall, then the 6th seal picks back up. And so you would only get that if you did the Mount of Olivet Discourse, because it gives you the order, but it doesn't always give you all the detail. So the Bible has correlation, different things, some for detail, some for general description, just so that you might be able to follow. And in each part of the Bible gives a little more detail in each one. And on this one, we're starting a series, or we're getting this series transcribed on last day events. Okay, on this one. And that's supposed to be a 7-volume series. Now in this one's similar to that, but what we did was we added to the Mount of Olivet Discourse with the book of Revelation, then we added the beasts. There's lots of beasts in the Bible. Many people don't know, they just say the beasts, and there's the beast from the bottomless pit, there's the beast from the sea, there's the beast from the 2-horned beast, there's the image of the beast, there's the dragon. And so most of the times we don't, when they talk about beasts, people think of one beast, just like they think about the law of one law. There isn't. And so what we did was try to compare when these beasts will come up during these events in the last days during the tribulation time. Now this one here is called Daniel 12 compared with the book of Revelation. So like we said, there's Mount of Olivet Discourse, there's Daniel, and there's the Revelation. And so what we did, since we already did the Mount of Olivet Discourse, now we go into more detail in trying to compare Daniel chapter 12, where it talks about the 1260 days, the 1290, and the 1335, where it talks about the persecution and a whole lot of other things. It talks about the the beginning of sorrows, the taking away of the daily, the cleansing of the sanctuary, also the abomination that makes it desolate. Now, most people, there's also a feast. We're familiar with the feast that Yahweh gave us, but there was a feast that was set up by Jeroboam. And his feast fell 30 days after the Feast of Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles begins on the 7th month on the 15th day. He set up a counterfeit on the 8th month on the 15th day, exactly 30 days apart. And then the most interesting part about that is when you go back into the book, God's calendar, we'll talk about that in a second. This is another one. When we talk about Yahweh's calendar, and we talk about this will be the last one, and we talk specifically about the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The Feast of Unleavened Bread occurs on the first month on the 15th day of the first month. So if you count 3 years, okay, you come back to the Feast of Unleavened Bread on the 15th. And if you count 6 months, which will give you 3.5 years, you'll come up with the Feast of Tabernacles, which is the 7th month, 15th day. Then if you add this Jeroboam's feast, you get 1,290 days. That's where you get 1260 and you get 1290. And so that's how we was able to map that into God's calendar and how the counterfeit in the last days would fall into play. So there's lots of different things for the curriculum for us to build for our people. People are dying and people are waiting for us to do our work. Now, on this one, this is called the sanctuary, correlated with the book of Revelation. So what we do is we actually go through the feast days and show how this first coming represents Christ, the Messiah's first coming, and how the fall feast, the spring feast represented his first coming, and the fall feast represents his second coming. And so we're able to compare and go through the blowing of trumpets, and mapping that into the memorial of, on the 7th month, on the first day, is the blowing of trumpets, and mapping that into the 7 trumpets of the book of Revelation, and then mapping in the Day of Atonement, the cleansing of the sanctuary, with the end of time, and also mapping in what we call the Feast of Tabernacles, or the Feast of Booths, into last day events. And so these are some of the things that, thank you, of what we're trying to make available to our people before time does end. And so we will need help. I mean, I can't do it all. So those who want to help and be part to help build the curriculum, we are asking, we'll be more than glad to get your help and participation so that we can be able to do something in these last days, so that we might be able to raise up and do the work so that the Messiah can come back. He's just waiting for us to do what? Get our act together. And so that's where we are. So we got the beginning started, but by no means are we finished. Okay. Now, yesterday we did mention a few things. One of them, since he said that y'all were expecting a quiz, I might as well utilize it this time. Okay. I meant to tell him last night to ask everyone to come back with chapter 1 answers, but y'all got away from me on that one. But that's okay. We'll work something out on that. Okay. Now, last evening, we have one more chart here. We have one more chart that needs to go back. Last evening, when we were talking about how we are made, mental, physical, and spiritual. and how all three of them have to be nourished at the same time. Okay, so what are those three areas and how would they be nourished? Do we have anybody? Y'all got to speak up. You got to speak up. Mind, body, and soul, okay? Now, how are they nourished? Okay, somebody said from the Word of God. Holistic, okay? Now, when we deal with this holistic approach, how do we deal with this holistic approach? What do we have to do to deal with our mind, body, and soul? Sure, we don't separate them, but what do you do for your physical? Diet. It's called health reform. Yeah, we need that. Now, the question is, why do we need health reform? Or why do we care about health? Because everybody's sick. Real simple. If you're sick, you're busy what? Take care of yourself. You ain't got time to be doing his work because you're worried about who? You're worried about you. And you do need to worry about you. But you need to also keep the health aspect to keep you out of being sick. Now, most people believe that we wasn't made to be sick, were we? Okay. Are you sure? Yes. Well, why are we sick? Some say we're hard-headed, some say we're not following. Okay, that sounds good. That is true. That is the truth. And so what we want to make sure that we get a chance for us to realize and to be able to implement some of that. For me the stuff that I've been able to do in my book and so forth, that only came to me after I had gone through a cleansing program. And I was on a raw food diet for 2 years. Then it came. It just came. It just wouldn't stop. It just wouldn't stop. And so while I was there, I said, I better write it all down. It just keeps coming. And so the key is what Yahweh wants to do is that he made us such that our minds are to be able to communicate with him. He communicates to us through our nervous system, our electrical system, our electrical impulses. But most of the time, they're all shut down, like our circulation system. Okay, all of these things work together so that we can get a clear mind so that he can communicate openly to us. And most of the time, the things that we eat is be clouding our mind. And you can tell, because after you eat, what you want to do? So you ain't ready to communicate with him. And so that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind. Food, most people live to eat. That's the truth. Instead of eating, to live. And so that is a hard transition. I'm not going to say it's easy, but Aborigine people have it much easier because they don't have the McDonald's. And they don't have these things. They have learned how to live in harmony with what? With nature. That's right. Why did he make nature? For us to violate it? But that's what we're doing. That's what this society is set up on. And so how are you going to live in a society that is designed to destroy the planet and destroy you? And then that's why we have to have a relationship with him so that he can give us victory over our appetite. Okay, and if we can teach our young children young, then they don't have to what? Go through the same struggles, because we can, get their appetite, get their taste buds right. Versus, you pervert them and then you what? Now you're trying to figure out how you're going to not eat all of this stuff that you know you ain't supposed to eat. But you love, as they say. I don't know if you noticed, but the most expensive things are the delicacies, or what they call the delicacies, quote unquote, are all the things that Yahweh has said, no way. From your shrimps to your lobsters to your crabs, to your pig, and all. Oh yeah, everything he has violated. The system says, hey, this is what you should do, and then you're supposed to think, wait, who's right? And so we wind up finding ourselves in a predicament. And so we're just going to go over just a little bit of health, because health becomes of vital importance to us. Now, there's certain laws that we should learn about, or we should know about. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's 8 major laws. Write this down. New start. Now, these are acronyms. So on the first line, write N. Second line, write E. Third line, write W. Skip a line, and then, write it that way. And then I'm going to tell you how to fill it in. Something that'll keep you. Okay, N stands for nutrition. E stands for exercise. W stands for water. S stands for sunlight. T stands for temperance. A stands for air. R stands for rest. And T stands for trust in divine power. Now, most people don't know, but in the Bible, in Genesis, let's turn to Genesis for a minute. In Genesis chapter 1, 1 through 3, do you know that we could pull all of them laws out of there? Now, see, most people think Genesis, the creation story is just a story about creation, have no clue that it's teaching us about the laws he made to govern us on health. That's what he's talking about. He didn't just make the sun just to make the sun just to make the sun. He made it to do something for us. How can we prepare our health for disease and pestilence in light of current events? Now, we're hearing a lot about all these diseases happening, right? Tuberculosis is getting out of hand. This thing's getting out of hand. So all of these diseases, as they start to develop, okay, Yahweh has put in place ways that we can be living in accordance with his will. And we're supposed to be what? Protected from them. When we, at the end, in the book of Revelation, he tells us that we will eat of the tree of what? The tree of life. And we are, that the leaves are for what? The healing of the nations. So do you think that what about the herbs that are here today? They were healed for the healing of the nations. But instead of us, some people, we used to have it such that when we had problems, we would go out into the woods and pick sassafras and alfalfa and all of these different things and use them. And what? We didn't need the doctor. Because we had the great doctor. And so now today, we just pop a pill and think it's going to, But you got to remember, every pill has a what? Side effects. So you might be, they say, it'll solve this problem, but it might give you a heart attack. It might run up your blood pressure, and then you might get a stroke. I'm saying, well, why am I taking that for? So we have to go back to what he already designed. See, he already got the plan. The key is we have to what? Follow it or learn it. We can't follow it if we don't know it. So we have to learn it first. Why are Americans so sick? Because we have not learned. What haven't we learned? What's the purpose for food? What do you think the purpose for food is? To make you happy. They say some people, when they're stressed out, they just go eat. It's to make me happy. Yeah, you go be big too. If that's all you do, because you're going to be stressed out all your life. Hey, life is a stressful thing. Okay? Why was food created? For nourishment, that's right. And for specifically for keeping you alive and keeping you healthy. Why does the laws of health affect us? How does the laws of health affect us? Okay, we'll find that out in a minute. What are the basic laws of health? Y'all have them, right? All right, what are they? Somebody give me one. Nutrition. Y'all can go through the list. I think y'all can go through the list. All right, wait. Let's hold on. Okay, y'all. All right. Okay, new start. N stands for? Nutrition. E stands for? Exercise. W stands for? Water. S? Sunlight. T? Temperance. A? Air. R? Rest. T. Okay, so we know what the basic laws are. Now the question is how can we keep or follow these laws of health? How do we do that? How do we implement water? Well, we should drink around 8 glasses of water a day. Why? Because you lose water all the time. How do you lose water? Through perspiration? Talking, going to the bathroom, breathing, or sweating. So as you lose it, you have to what? Replenish it. Now, with water, what do you do with water today? You wash clothes with it, right? Now, what about if you wash your clothes and you didn't put water in it? Okay, or say that, okay, you put water in it, okay, and then you don't let it rinse. And you use the same water to rinse it because you didn't put in new water. And so that's the way it works with our body. We have water in our system, and then we don't what? We don't replenish it with the 8 glasses, so what happens? It's like a washing machine rewashing the clothes with dirty water. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm trying to get us to think, okay? See, this is all scientific. Yahweh, he's a scientific creator. He created everything. He created all the laws. See, the problem is he wants us to learn the laws so that what? That we can appreciate them and then start benefiting from them versus ignoring them. And they're still going to work on us either way we look at it. If we violate them, they're working on us because we violate them. And if we're not violating them, then we're working in harmony with them. Then they're what? Then we're in line with them. Okay? They were designed for our protection and prevention. Okay, what does he protect us from? What does the laws of Yahweh do?
Protects us from
Sickness and disease. Let's look at some practical laws. He made every law. So then what about the law of gravity? Is that for our protection? What is it protecting us from? That's right, just floating away and bouncing all over the place. Good. Now, what about, so as long as you keep your feet on the ground, you'll be in harmony with it, right? Then what about if you say, hey, I don't like that law? You say, I want to fly, and I should. And he could do it. Yeah, he could do it. Now let me, Lord, I believe, let me jump. See, that's a law that he's not changing for you. He's letting you know that as long as you live in harmony with it, it's a blessing. And when you violate it, it becomes a what? See, that's what they're called, the blessings and the what? Curses. A bless if you obey, he says, and a curse if you disobey. It's not that he curses you, it's that you violate his laws and you curse yourself. Right. And so we need to start looking at this thing from a whole nother perspective. The more knowledge we have of these laws, the more we can live in harmony with them. Is that right? Okay. Knowledge is a powerful thing in the right hands. So the more knowledge you have, the more powerful you can become. Now, it can be dangerous to others because then you can be having them violate the laws while you're profiting by it. And that's what what we call it, the drug system is all about. Okay, so keep that in mind. Living in harmony with the law. When we understand these laws, we can live in harmony with them and prosper by them. The basic laws of health were designed to preserve life and not to destroy life. And what are we finding? That we are always sick. That means what? That they're destroying us. That these laws that were given for our protection, we see them for our what? Our harm. And so that's why people say, well, hey, the laws, God did away with the laws. So I can live what? Outside them and still be sick. And then say, Lord, please now heal me. Now, I call for the elders of the church. And the Bible says you should lay hands on me and I should be raised up from the dead. But if we're violating the laws, he's not, it's just like somebody says, I want to smoke a cigarette. And then you get cancer and he says, now, Lord, heal me. And this is where we find ourselves today. Not understanding the laws. Not knowing these laws puts us at a great disadvantage in terms of obeying them. Is that right? That's right. If we do not understand these basic laws, we wind up getting into trouble with these laws and getting what we call sick. We find that these laws that were created for our protection are destroying us. Okay, today people will tell you, well, everybody's coming down with skin cancer, so you need to stay out of the sun. Well, wait a minute. Not everybody. I mean, I still see the Africans and the Aborigines that live in Africa and other parts of the world. I don't hear them complaining about no skin cancer. And they out in the sun more than we are. So is it the place where we're living? What is it? It's what we're eating. And people we say, nah, I don't believe that. But it is what you're eating because the McDonald's are killing you. All them fried foods and all the rest of that. So we are creating our own what? Diseases and curses. Okay, so we can't blame God for that. And we can't say, well, the Lord said I can eat anything and it'll just pray over it and it'll bless me. We use these scriptures to our own destruction. I think Paul says we wrestle the scriptures to our own what? Destruction. And that's a good example of us wrestling them. How to properly use and implement the 8 laws of health. These 8 laws of health were given to us by our creator, our designer. How to prevent disease and maintain better health. Now, if you bought a car, which people have, and you decided, it comes with a manual, right? Tells you where to put the gas, it tells you where to put the oil, it tells you where to put stuff, right? Now, if you decide that, well, I don't like the manual, that's the Bible, right? I don't like that manual. And some of that stuff I think is obsolete. So if you decide you want to, not change your oil, it's only a matter of time before your engine burns up. Right. And you can't blame the designer. He made a bad motor. No, you didn't read the instructions. You didn't read the owner's manual. So we are the temple of Yahweh, and there came an owner's manual with this thing. And so unless we read the owner's manual and follow the owner's manual, we'll find out, somebody might say, hey, I think they got it wrong. I want to put oil in the gas. And the gas, I want to put that in the radiator. And I'm going to do whatever I want because it is my car. Yeah, no question. You can do whatever you want. It is your car. And when you can't drive it no more, don't blame the designer. And that's what we do. We blame the designer for everything that we do what? Wrong. As if he didn't give us instructions. Okay? So these things we need to keep in mind. Okay. Y'all all know the 8 laws of health. Now, we're just going to run through some of them quickly because I need to move on to some other things. But I want to make sure that you understand. See, I've been a vegetarian since 1976. And I've been studying it, and I've been learning and prospering from it. Some people say I don't look nowhere close to have been vegetarian since 76. You might have been born in 76. But hey, you follow the laws, the blessings come. Simple as that. That's all you have to do. With pure air, you can always breathe in. You want to get as much pure air as you can, breathing in outside, not in a polluted city. Not that. You don't want that. You're just breathing in more poisons into your system. Okay? Water, you want to make sure you get your what? Your 8 glasses in. Okay? Let me get some while I'm talking to you about that. That'll work. Okay, now the water is very important because as we mentioned, it cleanses your system. Is that right? Okay, just like water cleanses clothes. And as we know, we wouldn't ever think of not what? Washing clothes with dirty water. But we do that every day when we don't drink correctly. Also, diet. We've talked about nutrition. We need to get what? The nutritious items in the system. What are they? All right, Genesis chapter 1. What did he give man at first? Real simple. All right, verse number 29. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. So what did he give us as our first diet? No, it said every herb yielding seed. The seed. Okay? And every tree which yields what? The fruit of the tree yielding seed. It shall be for meat. And meat in the Bible means food. Okay, so he made us basically seeds, nuts, and fruit. There was no vegetables in our diet. This was before sin. Basically, you were a fruitarian. In verse 30, he says that what? The animals were given what? The green herbs. So they were vegetarian. Okay? Now, after sin, he changed our diet. He had to, because if otherwise we would have died. So in chapter 3, he changes, well, I'm not going to go through that, like you can check it out. But my point is, he changed our diet and added greens to it. And then we became vegetarians. Okay? Now, the reason why is this. And a fruit, okay, fruits were created to cleanse the system. Okay? And that's what they do. They cleanse the system. Okay? So they will pull out all of your poisons. Okay? But then it doesn't heal your system. The greens heals your system. So before sin, we didn't need healing. That's why it wasn't in your diet. Your diet was purely fruitarian so that you can be cleansed and be clear communication between you, the spiritual world, the Creator. They can communicate. And it says that, he walked in the garden and communicated with him all the time. Real simple. And that was the first design. So you don't want to ever become a fruitarian. You kill yourself. What happens is it opens you up, and then you have nothing to block it. What the vegetables do, the vegetable heals the systems and blocks out poisons. That's what they do. So that means if you're eating vegetables and stuff, you can, walk, and if you're breathing and all this bad stuff, the greens are supposed to protect it and cleanse it and, heal it. Where the other one does not do that. And if you just open it all up, all the poisons that you get, it'll come in and it'll just shut you down. So that's what, I'm not advocating anyone to be a fruitarian. So please, don't walk out here saying, Brother Emaneul said. No, I didn't say that. All right, that was the one before creation. After the fall, we were given the diet of the animals. Interesting. After the fall. Okay? Now, that was for healing, and he knew that that's what he had introduced. Then, after the flood, the diet was changed again. Okay? And that was for what? That was when flesh was introduced into the body. Now, he had destroyed the planet, and then he allowed meat to be eaten without the blood and only clean. Now, the issue was, man was living how long? 900 and some years? After he introduced the meat into his diet, started living how long? And somebody said, that has nothing to do with it. Yeah, right. 120 years he give you. From 900, almost 1,000. I think you cut your life 90%. And we say, yeah, man, we love that stuff. Okay. That's why you died. I mean, we don't even think. See, this is basic thinking. We just accept what the Bible says, I can eat it, or let me go to it. Now, there are consequences, folks. Okay, I understand. I love it. And see, so the Yahweh is telling us things, and we just, keep missing it. But these are all our choices. But like we said, if we don't know them, then we're what? Violating them all the time. Sunlight. Sunlight was given in, matter of fact, it was on the fourth day, sunlight was given. Now, there was light before the fourth day because he said, let there be light. Now, what type of lights do we have besides sunlight? Ultraviolet light is from sunlight. What other lights do we have? Fluorescent, yeah, lights in here. This is not sunlight. We got light in here. Anything else we get lights from? Candle lights, that's correct. Fireplaces, fire, we get light. Lightning bugs, we get light. So there's lots of things that the light comes from. And so light came into existence on the first day, but it wasn't the source of the sun. That wasn't created to the fourth day. Okay, now what does sunlight do? This is what sunlight does. If you have, if you're on a good diet, and cholesterol will develop on your skin. And what it's supposed to do is the sun is supposed to convert the cholesterol into pre-vitamin D. Get that? Pre-vitamin D. So when your body needs vitamin D, you don't need to get it from the cow, all right? You don't get it from the cow, all right? You get it from the sun, and if you're eating the right foods, then it'll convert it to pre-vitamin D, and as your body needs the vitamin D, it will implement it. Now, usually some people, when we put people on diets, cleansing programs, and you can take the, what it'll actually do, when it converts the cholesterol off the skin, then it goes into the bloodstream to pull the cholesterol out of the bloodstream to put it on the skin. So that's how you lower high cholesterol in your bloodstream, if you're on the right diet through sunlight. It was already designed that way. Then, if you have high blood pressure, usually your arteries are clogged up with what? Cholesterol. And so what it'll do, it'll take the cholesterol from or out of the, once it uses up all of it on the skin, It'll go into the bloodstream, start pulling it out of the bloodstream, dumping it on the skin, and then once it finishes pulling out what's in the bloodstream, then it'll start working on the walls and pulling them off the walls, putting them into the bloodstream, then onto the skin, and then converting. So Yahweh's already created how to lower your blood pressure. See, sunlight is already there. See, Yahweh has everything already in line. We just don't know it, and we're violating. Okay, so instead, we're eating all these fried foods, and it's just, clogging up that stuff so that it don't convert it to pre-vitamin D, and then you eat, hey, man, this thing is burning me up. And you're wondering why you're coming down with skin cancer. Okay, it wasn't designed that way. Exercise. How does exercise work? Okay, we have our blood, okay, and you have your heart is pumping. Okay, as your heart pumps, then that's circulation. Okay, so the more it pumps it, and the bigger your arteries are and veins, it'll pump it all the way through. Okay, and it moves the oxygen. So as you breathe in, you get the oxygen goes through the bloodstream. Now, if you're eating the correct drinking amount of water, then the water will combine with the oxygen. Now, what is the formula for water? H2O. Now, when you add an extra hydrogen, what do you have? Wait. See, y'all think the Bible don't teach chemistry and calculus? What's up here? Okay, when you follow these laws. Okay, we just said water is H2O, right? Add another oxygen to it. Now, what do you have? H2O2, which is hydrogen peroxide. Okay, and what do you use hydrogen peroxide for? You got wounds, you put it on in and cleanse it, right? Okay, so Yahweh has designed hydrogen peroxide in your system. In your system, it goes through and kills off the germs and the disease. That's what it's designed for. So if you're breathing in right, getting your oxygen, drinking your water, you are automatically in line. Yahweh is already setting up motion to kill off a lot of disease in your system. So if you're not getting your breathing in right, you ain't getting your oxygen, and you're not drinking your water, then, hey, you're just building up more disease. So you see how, and that's why I send people through a 10-day oxygen therapy cleanse. Oh, yeah, so that we can start getting people into a reality check here, okay? So this is how they work together. These are not isolated things like we talked about. It's not a box of sunlight, a box of air. No. All these things work together as one. Now, in some places in Europe, that they understood hydrogen peroxide so much that they would get intravenous drugs, and those people, they would actually put peroxide in them. And they would see, wow, it's lowering their blood pressure, it's killing their peroxide, it's killing off their high cholesterol. Wow, this is wonderful. And that's what they were doing in Europe. Now, the problem with that is, now you artificially doing what Yahweh has done naturally. So it has its ups and it has its downs. So as they kept cleaning it out, then they decided, they didn't know when to stop. See, the body knows automatically when to stop creating the peroxide because it's done its job. So since you keep dropping more in, it's just still eating away more of the cholesterol. Now it starts eating away your what? The walls on your blood vessels. And then they started getting holes in them, and they said, oh, man, we got to stop. Okay? So there's all of these things that people are realizing of what is going on and how Yahweh works. Also with exercise, it's going to, the more circulation you have, that means the more oxygen and the more blood that you have flowing through your system. Exercise will also increase our lymph nodes. Our lymph nodes need to work. Lymph nodes are what cleanses and pulls out the poisons in your system. Now, a lot of people, when they get sick, they say that hey, we want to cut out your lymph node. Okay, you want to take out my lymph node, but my lymph node is the only thing that pulls the poisons out. Yeah, but they got cancer. Yeah, they got cancer because that's their job. Their job is to pull all the poisons out. So once it builds up into this big pus of poison, what is it called? Cancer. It's just like when you have a blister. When your thing come up, it turns into this big what? Blister. Then you what? Pus. Boom. Pop. Boom. Let all the poisons out. And so that's what they say. No, yeah, but we want to cut the thing. But why would you cut the thing that's pulling the poisons out of my system? Now that I have nothing to pull the poison out of my system, now I'm really going to die. See? Hey, we need to jump on Emaneul's 10-day cleanse. That's what we need to do. Hey, to get the poisons out, not get it cut out. Hey, but that's man for you. Trying to circumvent Yahweh's plan. So y'all see what's going on? That's why I said, ain't no way I'm going to let y'all just get away with people of color and y'all dying. Well, wait a minute. Y'all need to understand people of color, but I can't, you be dead. So I at least got to keep you alive to understand it. And start implementing other aspects of life and get you to see this is a holistic thing. This is not a separated issues. That's what I'm trying to make sure everybody understands. Temperance is eating right, staying away from those things that you know are what? Bad, poisonous. Rest, see, your body needs rest. As you go to sleep at night, as you rest, it starts to regenerate all the different things that have been going on, and your mind goes through and categorizes everything. So you need your rest. It's essential, and we know we have to what? Trust in Yahweh so that he can direct our paths. Okay? So there's a whole series. As you can see, there's over 30, there's probably 100 slides, but we ain't going through all that because it's not a study on health. It's a study on people of color. But we want to make sure that you understand that. Yeah, this is a presentation of 127 slides. So, does everyone get appreciation? So you can find water. So the first day he created what? Y'all can look. We're in Genesis chapter 1. Out of all them things that we listed, he's creating them. He created which one first? Light. Okay? And that's one of the 8 laws of health. What did he create the second day? Water? Somebody said? I'm listening. I'm busy doing this. I think y'all can read, right? All right, what did he say? What did he create the second day? See, now so he told me, the pastor already told y'all in front of me. I got quiz y'all. You just can't let the brother do everything for you. Y'all got to think. Okay, what did he create the second day? Huh? I'm listening. Okay, somebody said the firmament. Somebody says water. What did he do? What did he do? He created the firmament, right? Okay, the firmament ain't the water. That's air. It's all right. We're getting it together. It's the air, okay? So basically what he did, see, in the beginning, he had water. The earth, it says, in the second verse, it says that the earth was without form and void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Yahweh moved upon the face of the water. So it was just water. That's all it was. So he didn't create water. The whole thing was water. Okay? Then he created the light. Then the next day, he says that he what? He created a firmament to separate the waters from the waters. Okay? And so what does that mean? The water that we have at the bottom, the oceans, from the water that was at top. So at the top, in the beginning, the earth was surrounded by water, and there was an air gap in between the water. So you had water up here, which was surrounding us as our ozone, and then we had our earth, which was no land or water. And in between was what we call air, or what we call our air gap, or the firmament. Okay? All right, so that's where air comes in. So that's why I said you can get all 8 laws of health, right? All of them. So, and that's my point is, he didn't just create these just to create these. And so, we got to get deeper into the word. The word says more than what you think. We just run through it. Okay, so now that I helped y'all on the second day, now y'all got to tell me what he did on the third day. I'm listening. Dry land? Okay, excellent. That'll be quick. Okay, so he created dry land. Okay, and in the land, what do we get from the land? Our food, nutrition, yeah, okay. See, there we go. Okay, the next day, what did he do? It tells you he made the grass, the herbs, the seeds, and so forth. Okay? And then after he finishes, Okay, and the next day?
The sun and
Okay, there we go. On the fourth day, there's the sun come into existence, the moon, and signs. Okay, they're called feast days. That's what they were, the signs, and that's what they're based on. Okay, that's when he created the calendar. He said for signs, and he says in verse 16, and he made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night, and the stars. Okay. And in verse 14 it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmaments of the heavens to divide the day from the night. So that's how we get a day. And for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. Days, we know, is 24 hours. Years, 360, 364.5. And seasons. What is this seasons? No, it wasn't no winter, sun, and fall in those days. Not the creation. Everything was room tempered the same all the time. After sin, and after the tilt, after the flood, that's when we got that. That word seasons is, when you look at it in the book of Deuteronomy and so forth, you will find that it's it's referred to as feasts. That's what they would set up. The feast was set up at that point. So Yahweh gave Adam a calendar then. So you had the sun, you have days, weeks, years, months, and feasts. Okay? And then as we went through, we already read about the diet he gave us and all of those different things. Then he created man, and he told him to do what? Name all the animals, right? So that means he gave him exercise. He gave him work to do. See, all this stuff is there. Everything. And that's why I say we gotta understand deeper than just, this surface knowledge. I mean, we just read the Bible like a newspaper. And that ain't, or a novel. Hey, it don't benefit you that way. I mean, it gives you some knowledge. I mean, it's better than nothing. But hey, you got to study it like you're studying a textbook, like you're going for a test. Because we're being tested when? Every day. So we got to take the test serious. Okay, now let's move on in time. I wanted to just go over a general, now that you got a little bit about health. When we talk about time, we know that God created man and woman in how many days? 6 days, and then the seventh day was what? The rest. Now, it's interesting that we're talking about that people put the fall of man around 404 BC. Now, that's interesting because when you map out around 6,000 years, which would accommodate for 6 days of creation, and then the seventh year would be what? The sabbatical, the 1,000-year reign of the Messiah. So I just drew that out just so you can see that, hey, I mean, he's telling you so many things on so many levels. He's telling you that he created. Now, this is the most interesting part. On the sixth day, he created man, right? Perfect. And in the last 6,000 years, or the last millennium before the Messiah, we live and reign with the Messiah for 1,000 years, guess who he perfects? What perfected people he will bring on the stage? The 144,000. Recreation. See, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's so deep, the Bible. There's so many levels that, now, let me give you a hint. From an African viewpoint, this is how you look at things. From an African viewpoint, you're saying 1, 2, 3, or 4 things. You're talking about it in a parable. You're talking about it in reality. You're talking about it in science. And you're talking about it on a spiritual well. So everything you're reading in this book, you're reading 3 or 4 different applications he's giving you. But now, if you use a Eurocentric viewpoint, no, it just means that one thing. No. And that one thing might be misinterpreted too. But the point is, there's all of these levels, and you have to be able to, Yahweh wants to develop us up into that. Okay? So when I saw that, I said, man, that's a striking parallel. I mean, I don't think that's a mistake. But these are in his calendar. That's why he gave us 6 days and so forth. Okay, and I talk about completeness. God created man on the 6th day of creation. So the first full day that man lived was called the Sabbath. 7 represents completeness. Man was created holy and what? Perfect. Now, there's a scenario that goes on, which I wanted to talk about for a minute. It's interesting that in the beginning, Yahweh started everything in Africa. Interesting. So the Africans were connecting with Yahweh. That's what he had for the first 2,000 years. Then we fell away. You know, everybody falls away. You know, that's just life. Then he started using the Hebrews. That's when you see Abraham come on the stage of action. And he started using the Hebrews for around 2,000 years. Then we fell off the horse again. And then he said, okay, now it's the time for the Europeans, the Gentiles, to come in and accept. And then they've been running it for 2,000 years. And now we're back in this mess. So everybody had a chance and made a mess of it. So, but now there were always faithful ones from each of the groups that still continued.
Yes.
So we've been knowing Yahweh for 6,000 years, basically. And don't you think we should have it together by now? That's a shame. And the Hebrews, they've known him for what? 4,000 years. And the Gentiles for how long? 2,000 years. And so if Yahweh is asking us to what? Come around. Get our act together, because people are waiting for this thing to what? End. And everybody has a chance. And so this is where we are put. Now, as we talk about the people of color in the Bible, we're going to do something. We're going to cover our beginner series. That's where the health began. The health began with our beginner series. As we go through this beginner series, this is the series that we use for the children. So don't feel offended. Because you might think, you know, now when we talk about the Bible, how many people know much about Africa? Not too many. Okay, it's okay, it's okay. Don't feel bad. It wasn't taught in the curriculum. All right, it's left out of the curriculum. So I don't expect you to know it unless you did it on your own. Okay, so since we know that that's what has happened, we would like to start there for a minute. See, this is our beginner series. Because for us to understand the geography of everything, when we talk about Africa and classical Africa, we need the geometry. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to help us understand. We mentioned last night that Africa and the Bible are inseparable. When you're reading about the Bible, you are reading about Africa. Now, most people don't know that, but that's what we're doing. How do I get this to fill the whole screen? Now, when we talk about Mother Africa, it's not going to slideshow like last night. I don't know what happened. something's set that way. When we talk about Mother Africa, when we talk about Africa, or classical Africa, there's a difference between Africa and classical Africa. They're not the same. Classical Africa is the ancient terms that was used in the ancient world. Okay? It includes, as you can see, what we call the Middle East today. After World War II, up until World War II, the Middle East was considered Northeast Africa. After World War II, it had to be changed, such that it was given a whole new name called the quote-unquote Middle East. Now, the reason is most people don't know why, but, people can just draw a line in the sand and say this is this and this is this, and, we just accept it as if it's the gospel or something. But the reason why they had to change it was going to become difficult. How do you explain that you're going to put European Jews in the middle of Northeast Africa and then call it their homeland? You have a problem. So it's no longer Africa. It's now the Middle East. Now, what does that mean? Hey, man, don't matter what it means as long as we renamed it. And that's what it was. In classical Africa, that was part of it. And so they decided that, hey, it is no more today. We just drew a line in the sand. Simple. Nothing complicated. I said, okay. All right, what do we have here? We have the largest desert is called the Sahara, the whole largest desert in the world. Now, I think you could take the United States and put it in the desert. It still ain't fill up the desert. Now, do you see how huge that place is? Yes. That's just the desert. Okay? We also have the Nile River, which is the longest river in the world. Then we have the Lake Victoria, which is the second. You got your pen? You got your pen light? Because I left mine inside. It's the second largest river. The second largest lake compared to America's Great Lakes, the Great Lakes of Michigan and all of them. Then it's the second largest continent, smaller than what we would call Asia. Thank you. It has 53 countries. Egypt alone is mentioned 612 times. Now, what's the first landmass mentioned in the Bible? See, you told me to ask y'all questions. See, y'all don't think I'm going to ask y'all the simple questions. Okay, what did you say? The Garden of Eden. Okay, good. Now, what is Eden then? All right, classical Africa, not Africa. Big difference. Okay, you caught that. All right, that's good. Now, don't hesitate, you guys. We're going to keep asking questions because I assume you guys understand all of this. Long assumption. Okay, so we're going to go into some more detail so that you can add to what you know. There we go. Okay, it's fertile strip. The entire coast is ideal for farming. Now, this is some of the land in Egypt that was taken. A friend of mine went over there and he brought back some pictures. It is known for its olive groves, its fruits orchards, and its farms. This here is our coconuts, all the fertile land. When we talk about the most fertile lands, we talk about the Nile Valley and the Nile Delta. Right here is what we call the Delta, where they all dump into the Mediterranean Sea. And the Nile Valley is everything that the Nile flows up and surrounds. Okay, every year the Nile overflows and brings up all of the good soil, and when it goes back down, then they can replant. So that happens, and that's a very fertile ground. Okay? We have in the Sahara Now, we still have our young people, so I don't want our young people. So this is a beginner series. So this is mainly designed when we do our presentations, now the books that we have over there and some of the videos the pastor have is designed for the children. But as you will see, it's not just children material. But I wanted to let you know that so that you can know that we are really interested in training those children. And as we train them, then we become what? Trained. Okay? So don't look at it as, because the brother's giving us a beginner series. Don't he know we covered this book already? Still a beginner series. Okay? In the Sahara Desert, during the day, it's sunny and hot. Okay? The nights are chilly and almost never rains. So what you have is an extreme difference in temperature in the desert. Hot and then ice cold, happening all the time. Now, it's interesting. The countries within the Sahara is Morocco, Algeria, that's in the Sahara, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, Chad, Niger, Mali, and Mauritania. Okay? All of these are part of the desert. Long-hauled cattle are used by the Fulanis and Wadabi tribes. They are herdsmen primarily like Abraham. And why did I throw Abraham in there? They travel great distances in search of water, food, and herds. Now, this is what happened. Okay. When we read the Bible, okay, we covered this in my book, so we assumed you, now we're making an application to it. See, what we're going to do is you covered some material, now we're going to make applications. Okay, whenever there was trouble in Egypt, in Israel, where did the children of Israel go? Okay, usually they went to Egypt. Give me some examples. All right, Jesus went to Egypt when they went to kill him. Okay, which famine? During the time of Abraham. Yep, and then he lied, because that's where he found himself. Time of Joseph. What did you say? Jacob. Mm-hmm. Who else? Isaac went down there also, same thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, now that's the famine trouble. What other problems did they have that they ran always, that they had to flee the area? War, okay. Which wars? I'm getting y'all to think. Y'all read the book. It's all in there. I put a whole section. Why do we flee to Africa? A whole section. Oh yeah, y'all. I hope y'all not read my book like it's a fairy tale or like a newspaper or a novel, because then y'all ain't gonna get much out of it. You're supposed to be using that book as a guide, and then to go do some further research. And when you're looking up a subject, you go to the book and okay, let's reference this. So that's more of a reference book and a study guide, and you should be using it as that. What we find out was at the time of Jeremiah, okay, when Babylon took over and they came down and took the people, then after that was over, some of the people that were left with Jeremiah were afraid and they went into where? Into Egypt, down into Africa. It's always the pattern that whenever there's trouble, we flee where? Into Egypt or into Africa. Now, this is important because the pattern is set scripturally. This is the debate that has been going on, and I don't think it's much of a debate, but when the destruction of 70 AD occurred under the Roman general, where did the Hebrews flee? Now, most people will tell you they fled into Europe. And now the question is, well, if the Roman Empire is persecuting you, enslaving you, why would you go in to them? That doesn't even make sense. I mean, we're not stupid, but Well, it doesn't even make sense. Plus, that's not the pattern. They fled into what? Into Egypt and into Africa. And then when the persecution of the Roman Empire moved into Egypt, what did they do? Now, some will say they fled into Europe. See, they got to keep fleeing into Europe, for some strange reason, which don't make no sense. Contrary, but they fled deeper into where? Into Africa. So that these people here, that's why I stopped about these people. These people, Fulanis and Wadabis, these people have a strange tradition. Their strange tradition is that when you, as long as you sojourn and wander, you're a true Fulani. Once you settle down, you're no longer a true Fulani. Now there's an interesting text in the Bible that says that we're what? Pilgrims and strangers. See, them boys are pilgrims and strangers, and they don't even know why they do that. It's just that, hey, man, this is what we do. And so they claim that they are the descendants of Abraham, that these are the Hebrews. And their traditions match up with it. It's very interesting. And I said, wow. And so, so that's why I asked you, what are you thinking? The same thing with the Syrian Empire. When the Syrians came down and conquered and took them off into Medes, the Media, the 10 tribes. Then when they were conquered by the Babylonians, where do you think the 10 tribes went? Now, some will tell you Europe again. That's the traditional viewpoint. Everything happens in Europe. But wait a minute. If it always happens in Europe, how come the Bible never tells us that? How come it always tells us the opposite? But anyway, so then they fled down into Egypt and Africa and so forth. And so over the years, even some of the empires of Mali, the Mali Empire and the Songhai Empire and Timbuktu and all of these places, the great places of Africa, that Africans were flourishing in the time of, guess what was happening in Europe? Called the Dark Ages. Something going wrong. During the Dark Ages, you got them flourishing. And guess who's running? Some of the people in the book called From Babylon to Timbuktu, Dr. Rudolph Windsor documents of how some of the leaders in these great empires were, guess who? The Hebrews. So if they were, now listen to this. Revelations chapter 12. It tells us about his people fleeing into the wilderness to be nourished from the face of the beast. Twice. One from the dragon. Yeah, the dragon, the woman. So that's where, I believe, one of the times that they were fleeing, and that's where they were. They were being kept in Africa, in the Mali Empire, and some of these other empires. I could document that. So that's deals with part of Revelation 12. See, that's why I said all of this stuff just matches up. It's really wonderful stuff once you start looking and delving. So we're going to talk a little bit about these people. The Fulani and Wadabi tribes are scattered throughout the Sahara region. They believe to have originated in where? And are the true Hebrews of the Bible. Interesting. But most people don't talk about that. They're not supposed to know about these people. Some of the most important, valuable expressions in their behavior are hospitality. Now, who offered hospitality in the Bible? Abraham, that's right, to the angels. Who else? Lot. Right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have saved the angels. Yeah. And the Bible says for us to be what? Entertain strangers. Because we could be entertaining what? Angels. Generosity. They travel by foot, on camelback, and by donkeys. That's what they look like, a reddish-brownish complexion. Annual celebrations which bring their neighbors together This occurs during the rainy season and constitute an important part of their culture. These celebrations are Warsaw and Genoa. Now, inside the children's videos, we go over all this. And in the children's book. So, y'all think the little coloring books don't have much in it. You'd be surprised. It has all the stuff we're talking about, which we don't cover in the other book because we assumed you what? That's right, that you was a kid and you're growing up into this. So you already covered that. So that's why we call this the ABCs. Now somebody's saying, well, this don't sound like no ABCs to me, but they say, hey, we're going to have our kids that this is the ABCs so that they can just what? Keep developing. See, that's the key. We got to have a deep curriculum. We can't run a shallow curriculum for them. We want them to be able to think, study, and be able to analyze. And do it quick. Because you don't know how much time you're going to have. Okay? The Warsaw is a 3-day celebration. Celebrates births and marriages, which have taken place during the year. Now, when we talk about births, is there anything in the Bible that talks about people celebrating births? All right, somebody said yes. Somebody shaking no. Somebody says, I guess you don't know. Who said yes? All right, so what's the, I'm going to ask you, what's the event? Okay, birth of Christ, that's one. Anybody else? John the Baptist. Oh yeah, there was a big fuss over him. They said, what type of person is this going to be? Huh? I can't hear you. Okay, from the names? Okay, that's fine. So there is such things as, now they had naming ceremonies. That right? In the Bible. Yeah. Which two do you know had to be at least a naming ceremony? That's what John the Baptist was the whole thing about. He said, your name is going to be John. He said, nah. His name is not going to be Zachariah like his dad. Nope, his name is going to be John. These were naming ceremonies they had. Africans have naming ceremonies all the time. I mean, you can't have a kid without having a naming ceremony. See, that's what I'm saying. When you're reading biblical history, you are reading, and culture, you are reading African culture in essence. You are. And so most people don't know that. And so they're interchangeable. And they work together, and as we study, we're going to see why. Okay? Okay, the Warsaw is a celebration consisting of singing, dancing, storytelling, roasting of rarely slaughtered animals. And this is how they dress up. The Gear War is a 7-day celebration. It is also characterized by dancing, but the main objective is to display male beauty and masculinity. Now, all of this is in a book that's called Nomads of Niger by Carol Beckett. And she makes it clear that she's quoting them. They say that they are the children of Abraham. So that threw me. I had that one down. I documented that. So if somebody wants to see the book, that's what it's called. Nomads of Niger. And it's by Carol Beckwith. When I saw that, I have never seen that again, nowhere else. No one has ever documented and said that that's what they're saying. So I thought that was vitally important. Everyone have that title who wants it down with the author?
I have a question.
Yes. You got to speak up. Yes. Huh?
The Philosophians. Are you going to mention them?
The Falashes. The Fulanis and the Falashes, they're the same. Yeah, they're the same. And then they also go by another name. But they're basically all the same group of people. Abyssinians. I know the Falashes, the Fulanis and the Falashes, they cross most turfs. but as we just said, that they were desert wanderers. While they were there, when in Nigeria, that there's two main groups, the Fulanis, or Falashas, and the Igbo. Those are the two main ones there. Now, the Igbo are the ones that do the craft and do most of the labor. And the Fulanis are the ones that are running the general and running things. And so, you know, that's what they do best.
We had an Hebrew here the other day.
Oh, okay. Igbo, yep. So, yeah, so it's good for us to learn some of our culture, because some of the culture is scriptural, because it's the same people. Okay? Then it says south of the Sahara is what we call the grassland. So we're back to the geography. So we did some of the geography of the desert. We dealt with one group of people. Why is it called the grassland? Because it's what? Very tall, the grass, fertile region, really large. And so we tried to get some of the different pictures there. Countries within the grassland: Senegal, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, just to name a few. Okay, so we're talking about this region down here. Okay? Now, this is some of the pictures that we're taking over in Africa, and some of the different animals that are there: the hyenas, the camels, the giraffes. And so, as you see, this is interesting for two reasons. That in Africa, we have all of these animals. Is that right? And who makes all the money off them? National Geographic, Nova. And how much money do you think they give back to the people who's... You know, so the whole world, you know, a lot of the world revolves around us, and we have no clue. Revolve around us. Elephants, all the different things that we use as entertainment and so forth, that's where they're from. And I know the children love it. Okay, now when we talk about the land of Ham and Ethiopia and Eden, when we talk about ancient Africa, notice it includes what? What we call the Middle East. Okay, so that's a little basics. There was one thing I left out, and I don't know why. I have to get that one back. In ancient Africa, or classical Africa, how much of the gold comes from there? And diamonds? Around 80% of diamonds, and around, I think they said 73. I think around 73% of the gold. Now, well, so the whole world, literally, economically, geographically, depends on what? But why is it so destroyed? Why is it the poorest nation on the planet? How has this happened? Our disobedience. So we have to get back to what? Following Yahweh. We have to understand what our role has been, why were we created, so that we can what? Fill our role. The animals got their roles. Everybody got their roles, but who? But us. Because we fell off what? We fell off the horse. That's what happened. And so we have to, but see, the key is this is our problem. None of us want to study to show ourselves approved under Yahweh. We don't want to study. We don't want to go back and refine and redo what we're supposed to have done. And if we don't, there's no way that anything can what? Happen. It's not, he's not just going to give it to us because you say, listen, man, I used to serve you. All right, fine. Okay, that's fine. But now, what are you going to do now? As they say, repent and be converted, as our brother says. and do the first work. That's what the Bible says. And that's where we have to find ourselves. We have to be willing to move forward, not afraid. Okay, now, the next one, we did health, science in the Bible, right? Mother Africa. And now we're doing Africa and the Bible. Now, in Africa and the Bible, when we talk about Africa, is the word Africa ever found in the Bible? Okay, why?
The word Africa didn't come in until after Hannibal was defeated.
Okay, so the word Africa, it was named by the continent. We talked about it in the book, right? Who named it? No, it wasn't a European. Y'all done forgot the book already. Brother, you said you finished the book. Yes. Hey, y'all must not have been really studying the book deep. Y'all using my book as a novel. All right? So it says in the book that it was by an Arab. Okay? You can look it up. See, some of the stuff, if y'all got your books, when I ask you the question, y'all should be smart. Y'all should be looking at the index, because I got an index down there. All right? I mean, all you got to do is look up in the index or look under the subtitles and say, hey, he named it right there, Africa. Okay, let me check. And then y'all can answer my question. See, y'all not using my book right. You even got it in your hands and you can't answer it. But I want you to be able to really use it. I don't want you just to put it on the bookshelf. The brother's finished with it. Sorry, brother. It was a good book. Okay, let's move on. Hey, you ever use the book again? Nah. Okay, so use the book. If you got your books here with you, look it up. I mean, I got everything. I tried to make it real simple so you can look up words in the back. You know, cheat sheet. Tells you where to go. It tells you all the pages. Not going to tell you which page, but at least gives you some coordination. Okay, since Africa, the name didn't come until the 1500s. When was the Bible finished? Written? 1611. Where'd you get that from? Well, okay, wait. If it was 1611's after what? 1500s, right? All right, so that don't jive. When was the last book written in the Bible? 70 AD, someone say. Okay, 70, 90 AD, with the destruction of Jerusalem. Yeah, we can put it in that time frame. But we know it's not, so we know that it was 400 years later, 1,400 years later, that they what? Named Africa. Then gave it the name Africa. So that's why the word Africa can never appear in the Bible. But it appears under different names. That's right. And the only way you would know that is if you what? If you know geography. If you don't know geography, you have no clue of what he's talking about. So see, the Bible is also a geographical book. Okay? Teaches geography. Okay? The geography that we're dealing with at this point is there. That's what we call classical Africa, which includes what? The Middle East, of what we call today Africa and the Middle East. Okay. Now, what names are given in the Bible that Africa is named after or named under different names? Wait. One person at a time. Cush. Okay. Why do you say Cush? And what land does Cush cover? Hey, y'all said it. I mean, hey, Cush is right. That's right. Cush's territory keeps increasing and decreasing over time. So it would depend on what time frame we're talking about. You talk about the land of Cush at the time of Micah, at the time of Genesis, at the time of, it's all different times. Okay, so Cush, and what does the word Cush mean? Hey, y'all read the book, come on. The brother, he told me to keep asking y'all questions. Okay, well, when we come back this evening, I hope y'all go back home and restudy. So when we come back, I'll be asking the questions. Y'all will be supplying the answers. All right? So, what does the word Cush mean? Translate. Burnt-faced people. Yeah, okay, good. All right, y'all getting it. Okay, there we go. But y'all scared. I want to hear y'all speak up. Somebody said, yeah, I said that already. I ain't hear it. Anybody else heard somebody say that? Yeah, well, you're sitting right next to it. Anybody else heard it? Okay, good. So I want y'all to speak up if y'all know you got the answer. I don't want y'all to be telling me, I said that, brother. I want to make sure, hey, I want y'all to be confident. Because you got to be confident what you say. You go talk to somebody about it, and they say, hey, wait a minute. What is he talking about? Okay, what other names? Kemet. Okay. Kemet refers to what? Egypt. Okay. Egypt. Okay. Now, the people of Kemet, in what we call, now let me give you an example. How do we spell Yahweh? Y-H-W-H. What happened to all the vowels? How do you think Kemet spelled? K-M-T. Where's their vowels? Same ancient writings, folks. I'm trying to get y'all to see when you just map the stuff, it's just the same, you're reading the same thing. See, I know that takes a while for us to grasp that because we're saying, well, Hebrew has nothing to do with what? Africa. Well, wait a minute. It has everything to do with it. When you're reading the Bible, you're reading African history. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see, at least geographically. Okay, so Cush, which we already said, is going to deal with how much of the land? Cush deals with how much? The whole Bible. Because it meant burnt-faced people. So that meant what? All black folk. That means the whole continent of what? Of Africa. Real simple. Okay? So it's not hard. Everything south of Egypt, they were saying, with Cush. Okay, what other name? Ethiopia, which is the same as Cush, okay? Okay, wait, let's backtrack. Okay, somebody threw out Ethiopia. Okay, it's not a hard question because you covered it. Who named it Ethiopia? Which ones? The Greeks, that's right. The Greeks started renaming things. And so one of them was that you are no longer what? Kemet, you're Egypt. You're no longer Cush, you Ethiopia. Okay, so they started renaming things. Okay? Now, Cush could refer to a lot of things. One is a territory. One is a people. One is a son. And one is a nation. Okay? Okay, what other names? Canaan. All right, good. See, somebody talk about Canaan. All right, see, there you go. See, somebody's getting smart. Somebody opening them books. Crack them books, I'm telling you. Okay, Canaan, the land of Canaan. That's the land of milk and honey, is that right? Okay, in the land of Canaan, okay, who lived in Canaan? The Canaanites, right. And that's right, Ham's descendants. There we go. The one that they said was what? Cursed. Interesting. All right, we'll deal with that another time. But Cush, Canaan, that was part of so we considered all of this classical Africa. And so they will be what we would call classical Africans if you lived in that area. Okay? Now, these Canaanites, we find out about them, a lot about them, here and there. We hear about at the time of Abraham, I want you to think about it. At the time of Abraham, what we find out at the time of Abraham was that Abraham ran across Abimelech, king of, he was the king of the Philistines. over in that area. When he was there, the Bible says that there was a righteous nation. Y'all remember that? In Genesis chapter what? Y'all remember the chapter? Genesis chapter 20. So if you got your Bible, anybody can look it up. So we want you to get, map the stuff in so that you can understand. Now, if there was a righteous nation, Abraham was a righteous what? Man. Individual. No, whoa. If you got a righteous nation, how long have they been following Yahweh? So that you could become a nation following Yahweh. How many years did it take before Israel became a nation following Yahweh? How many years? Hundreds of years. Yeah. So these guys were following Yahweh way back before Abraham. That's why I said it was 2,000 after Abraham up until around now. So these are the type of things we have to keep in mind or remember. Okay? And then we have Egypt. As we talked about the land of Ham, Ethiopia. And so that's what we covered so far under Africa and the Bible. Seems like we're running out of time. That's what they're telling me. So, okay, well, we finished this section. So when we come back, we can, pick up from there. So as you can see, just covering the beginner's stuff in the coloring books, as y'all would put it. Hey, I think these adults need to be getting their coloring books. And you can say, hey, I'm getting this for my grandson, I'm getting it for my granddaughter. Now make sure you read it before you give it to your grandson, your granddaughter. Okay? So these are the things, these are the ABCs. And as you can see, if our children learn this, hey, they're going to be, Yahweh will be able to use them in a miraculous way, especially if they introduce them health laws. And that's where we want to bring our people. And that's where Yahweh is calling us in these last days. Thank you.